Okay, now we got it. Now we got it. Move this guy over here and put me right down here. Okay. Okay. And now I'm running a little bit late, but that's because I was having technical issues. So, here we go. Let me get all my stuff together. Let me get my video, my stuff. Okay. So the problem was I was trying to get this guy, I was trying to get my little face on here because Facebook doesn't let you switch between a webcam and screen sharing. You have to do one or the other. So if I stop sharing my screen, it stops the video. But I also need you to be able to see me. So there's no one in here yet. So I'm just going to wait a minute. All right. So we're going to talk about 2019 planning and the things I do. So this is not going to be just a one-off. Planning an entire year takes a little bit of time because it's not just, you sit down with your to-do list and you sit down with your calendar and you put them side by side and you figure out what you're doing. Sure, that's a part of it, but in order to be effective moving forward, you have to look at your past a little bit. And so this first session, we're going to be going through a few steps, some questions to think about and ask yourself as you're getting ready to plan next year. And then we're going to look at a 30,000 foot view of what we want to accomplish next year. So for me, I'm going to give you a little bit of what my life is like. So I work from home. I do this full time. I do editorial work and I write. Now, up until last year, I hadn't been doing very much writing. So last year, 2018, well, this year, I guess, was pretty much by the seat of my pants. It was like, I'm going to focus on my writing, but then I didn't really have a plan. I just was like, okay, this is a project I can work on and do this. And oh, look, this book is done. Let's publish that. So I'm going to, in this upcoming year, I'm going to be doing things a little differently, a lot less seat of my pants and a lot more planning. Hey, Shell, I'm glad you made it. Sarah was in here earlier, but she didn't hang out. I had some technical difficulties and she didn't hang out. Well, I mean, I'm sure she'll be back, but yeah, so I had to reboot and then I had to do a thing so that you could see both my screen, my lovely shot of Amsterdam, and my face with my glasses because they cover up the fact that I'm not wearing hardly any makeup. All right. So anytime you're planning something, you've got big projects, especially if you're planning a whole year, it is really, really helpful to go through and look at what's happened in the past. So I don't have any worksheets on this just yet, but I just wrote it all down. But I'm probably going to put together a worksheet at some point because I would rather have just something I can go to year after year. So that's what we're going to use. Let me show you the other things we're going to use. I have things everywhere. Okay. So we're going to use a notebook. So get a notebook if you want to work as we go. I have a worksheet that is let me get that centered, writing your review. And then on the back end of your social media tracking. Let me move that. And I'll put it up on the board when I get to where we're talking about. I'll put it up on the screen and I'll make that PDF available to you in the notes. The other thing, and I'm super excited about this, somebody actually made a humongous workbook. Look at this, right? It is the Ultimate Authorship Planner. And it is this gigantic workbook that just gives you all the things. So this is my first time using this. I've done other planning, year-long planning sessions and things like that. I've done that in the past, but those were more geared toward entrepreneurial, specifically the business space, which of course, being an author, especially in this day and age, that is definitely a business, right? We're authorpreneurs, really. So, so this one is specifically geared toward authors. So I'm super excited to go through it. And what I'll probably end up doing before the end of the year, well, before the end of 2019, is make a whole bunch of my own worksheets based on this and things that work better for me than maybe what's in here. So that's what we're kind of going to be working with today. And I will, as we go on with other videos, I'll be doing these every few days for the next couple weeks through the end of the year. And I will share with you the things I use, because I have a lot of other things aside from this that I use. So to keep me on track, because I'm lazy. Everybody thinks I'm just this hardworking type A personality. I'm like a type Z personality. If I could just sit around and eat bonbons all day and watch Supernatural and Sense8 and all the cool shows on Doctor Who, which I am not caught up on right now, I would totally do that. If I were independently wealthy, I would be a lazy ass fuck. Okay, so let's get started though, because I'm not independently wealthy. I'm not independently wealthy. I know that comes as a shock, but that means I have to actually work. So the first thing we want to do when we're getting ready to plan next year, because a whole year is really daunting to try to put together, because you think, I have all these projects I want to do. Oh my God, all the projects, all of them. And then you just get completely overwhelmed and you don't think about it anymore. And then you end up doing everything piecemeal over the course of the year, and you don't get nearly as much done as you could. And then at the end of the year, you beat yourself up for not getting everything done. Have you been there? Have you done that? I've done that. So go ahead and tell me in the chat if you've done that. Of course, I think we lost Shell. Okay, so the first thing that I do is I ask myself, what did I accomplish this year? What did I actually do this year? Because very often when we come to the end of the year, we look at where we are. We just look directly around us. And then we think, oh my God, I'm right where I was at the beginning of the year. But that's never true. We always do more than we think we have done. So, okay, cool. Okay, so what I'm pulling up right now, this is my master to-do program. I use this. It was like $85 or something. I don't even know. It was so totally worth it. It's called My Life Organized. I am not advocating you get this, but this is how I look back and see what I've done, because it tells me, let me close everything. It tells me all my completed stuff all through the past. So I went through here. So my first question was, let me move this guy. Let me shorten this guy. So my first question was, I don't know if you can, like, let me get it centered right. Okay, so there it is right there. What did you accomplish? What did you accomplish this year? And I had to really think about it. It's like, oh, well, I published 3 books this year. I know I did that. But then I'm like, okay, I feel like that's really all I did. So I went through all my checked off completed items. And a lot of these are just day-to-day stuff, you know, like clean the cat's cat box and take your damn medicine, you know. So I went through here, and what I realized is that, okay, I published 2 novels and a short story. I sold books at a convention for the very first time. I was recently, and I actually haven't told my tribe this yet, but I was recently selected for a potential Publishers Weekly review, which, anyway, I'm not even going to, if you want to know about it, ask me later, and I will tell you what that means. That's kind of exciting. I don't know that they'll actually pick my book to review, but it's exciting to have gotten past the first, you know, where most people get a rejection. Anyway, so that happened. I've been serializing my novel on my website, and I've done that consistently since I started, which I am the worst at blogging ever. If I can make an excuse not to blog, I will not blog. So that's a big deal to me. I did my first indie published book launch. It wasn't fantastic, but you know, I have a huge learning curve because it's my first, but I did it. I accomplished it and I got some sales out of it. I had more editorial work this year than I've had in the last 2 years combined. Now, that's also because the last 2 years were very difficult. The previous 2 years were very difficult, but still, that's an accomplishment. I did more work. I brought in more money, much more money than I had the last 2 years. I wrote 2 brand new short stories, and I wrote 2/3 of the sequel to my book. And that's just writing. That's just writing. There are things in our bigger lives that, you know, beyond work that we accomplish. I can't think of any right offhand right now, but there are big things that we accomplish. Maybe you had a baby. Maybe you sent a baby to college or to the military, or maybe you bought a house, or maybe you bought a car, or maybe you actually, you know, redid your whole house, you know, you refurnished, or maybe you remodeled a room. Maybe you did the dishes every day consistently for a year, and that's not a thing that happens in my house. But for some people, that might be a thing. So really sit down and list out what you got done, because you got done a lot more than you think you did. And it's important to make sure that we're going into the 2019 with a sense of happiness and a sense of joy and a sense of, okay, I'm just going to keep on keeping on, you know, because very often we get caught up in what we didn't do. Well, I didn't finish the sequel to my book. I only got 2/3 of the way done. I didn't finish it. I had meant to publish the second short story this month in December, and that's not going to happen. It's not going to be till January before it's published. So I wanted to publish 4 things this year, and I didn't. We get more caught up in that. And it's really important not to do that, because, you know, we need to celebrate our accomplishments. There's enough bad news and crap in the world that can get us down. We don't need to do that to ourselves. So it's really important that you celebrate your accomplishments. Go get a glass of wine if that's your thing. Rum is my thing, so I don't do wine, I do rum. But right now I'm doing tea. I'm doing hot cinnamon tea though, so you know, I've got all the excitement going on right now. Okay, so the next thing, now ask yourself, what didn't go as planned? What did you want to do that you didn't actually get done? For me, I really kind of wanted to like I said, I wanted to publish that second short story this year, and I'm not going to get to it in time. Another thing is the whole question, what didn't go as planned? I didn't really have a plan either. So that was a problem. Like I mentioned earlier when the video first started, I went into 2018 with the only plan I had was, I'm going to focus on my writing and my publishing. Yeah, that's pretty nebulous, right? What does that even mean? How do I measure that, right? So I didn't really have a plan. So that's a problem. So the next question you ask, well, I ask, is what would I change? If I could go back and rewind and redo 2018 with the knowledge I have at the end of 2018, what would I do differently? And my main thing is that I would be more consistent with my writing. And I'll be showing you, I should probably open it. I will be showing you in a little while my writing tracking sheet. If I can figure out where it is, there it is. And I will show you how inconsistent I was, at least with my tracking. And okay, so I would be more consistent with my writing days and my writing process. One of the other things is I would just go ahead and schedule, like if I want to go have lunch with someone, I would schedule it on a writing day. And so, you know, what happens? I live in Atlanta, so any trip anywhere is going to be at least 30 minutes driving time. And then, you know, the hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, you have lunch with somebody, and then another half an hour home. So I've blown like 3 hours of my day on lunch, which is fine if I'm really doing heavy writing the other days, because then I would come home, I'd be like, oh, well, I wasted half the day's gone. So, you know, I did that much more often than I should have. Okay. So the next question is there anything specific that's blocking me? Now, this can be a lot of things. So for me, it was laziness. Laziness blocks me a lot. I call that laziness. Like when I come home from something, oh, I had a 2:00 doctor's appointment. I get home at 3:30. I'm like, oh, well, today's mostly over. Let me read some web comics, you know? So that's a thing. So that, like, I call that laziness. Maybe it's distractedness. That might be more accurate. But I let that stop me. And I need to stop doing that. Some people have a fear of failure. Like that can be very crippling, very crippling. It can be more crippling than minorly crippling. What a dumb phrase. Anyway, so that can be a really sort of crippling view to have if you're really, really scared of failure. So write that down. If I'm scared of failure, I don't want that to stop me. I want to keep going. I ran across a really cool meme recently. It was a couple weeks ago, and it just resonated with me and it stuck with me. And yes, I was getting to a fear of success. You're jumping ahead. So the meme was, if doing a thing scares you, do it scared. I was just like, what? That's amazing. That's amazing. Do it scared. It means don't let the fear keep you from doing what you want to do. Don't let that happen. It's okay to be scared. There's nothing wrong with being scared. So Shell pointed out in the chat that another thing is a fear of success. And you know, that sounds kind of ridiculous, right? Why would you be afraid of success? There are a lot of reasons. The biggest one, I think, is that people, if you succeed, people are going to expect that of you now, right? And then what if you can't live up to it? Like, I don't ever want, like, I would never want to have my very first book be a humongous blockbuster hit, because they're going to want that and more for a second book. And then what happens if that doesn't happen? We all know musical one-hit wonders, right? Right? That's a thing. That's a valid fear to have. But if you let it stop you, you never even get a chance to see if you get success. So don't let that stop you. So writing down, if there's something specific blocking you, then do it. When I hear people say they want to write, and I say, okay, well, what's keeping you from writing? I don't have time. Yeah, you do. You have time. You have time, right? So, but what they're doing is they're finding reasons why they can't write, and that keeps them from any possibility of failure or success, right? So they're blocking themselves. It's not even necessarily the fear, it's the excuses that they're making in order to keep them from having to face those fears. But our lives get much better when we're facing our fears. So figure out what specific thing is blocking you and what is keeping you from doing the things you really, really want to do. All right. I'm not going to go into the whole big woo self-help, you know, your mind is your temple or whatever. So I will probably end up making this little thing into a worksheet. And at whatever point I do that, I will definitely make that available. Okay. So in addition to those things, looking at what I accomplished, I want to actually look at numbers, because we can see, sure, I can write down that, you know, I had more editorial work, or, you know, I wrote 2/3 of a sequel or whatever. That's great. I mean, and that's pretty fantastic. But numbers always like make our brains happy, right? So I have this. Okay, whoops, my face is gone now. Let me scooch that over so you can still see my face. Okay, so I made this PDF that is the Writing Year in Review. And so these are different metrics that you can be, that you can use to track. So, you know, obviously you fill in the year. And this was the goal, like what at the beginning of the year you said you wanted to do for these. I didn't have any goals this year. Like I said, I didn't have a plan. So I have nothing for these numbers. Let me look it over. Okay. So I also left a whole bunch of blanks, because if you're doing, I'm not right now specifically doing submissions to magazines or publishers or whatever, but you could put in things like, you know, number of short stories submitted, number of short stories accepted. You might even track the number of short stories rejected, because, or any manuscripts rejected, because like I like to think You know, if that's the route I'm going, there are a certain number of rejections between me and my acceptance, and I want to get through them as fast as I can. So you might track that too. You might want to track the number of book manuscripts you submitted to agents or to publishing houses or whatever. So I leave this blank for, you know, whatever you would like to add to it. This whole worksheet is currently in Happy Planner size, which is 9 by 11, which is, if you're not familiar with Happy Planner, we'll see this more. I showed it to you guys in a video a while back, but we'll get into this more in a later video. But I will probably make one in 8.5 by 11. I mean, obviously it's still on an 8.5 by 11 sheet. It's just smaller. Okay, so you write down. So for this year, so how I track this. So I've got manuscripts begun, manuscripts completed, words written, pages revised, and books published. Okay, so obviously manuscripts begun, I just count them out, and completed, just count them out. Words written. So there's this amazing planner. If you are this amazing spreadsheet, and she's working on this year's. If you go to my website, you'll find it in the links. I'll post it though. Let me write down what I'm supposed to be posting. I need to give you the worksheet, and I need to give you the link to the planner book, and I need to give you the link to the spreadsheet. And my pen is running out of ink, so we'll switch to purple. Okay, so Jamie makes this amazing spreadsheet that I'm going to show you, and it's going to cover up my pretty face, but, well, actually, no, it's not. Look at there. All right, so this is her spreadsheet. Let me show you. So there, I've got most of them hidden here at the bottom, but she has all the months. So here's the start. I'm just going to do a quick run through. So you write down all the projects you have. You write down that. You write down what your writing goal is for that. And if you're revising, which of course you are revising, your revision goals. And I usually use pages. And she has, you know, the instructions in here, whatever. So on this, I was working on, this is the short story I worked on. And then Soul Cavern, which is the sequel, right? So this is Nano, so it looks very impressive, right? So you can track a column. This column is writing, this column is revision. So each project, and so all you do is you fill in the number of words that you wrote, and it adds them all up, right? You see up here, I wrote 10,828 words on the short story. The other thing I do, I also track blog posts. Obviously, I don't do it very well. And pre-writing. And I'll talk a little bit about pre-writing in some other video about my writing process, which is not part of any of this, but at some point. And those are, if you've seen me mention in the group, beats and things like that. That's what that is. So I track those, and because those count toward, for me, those count toward my word count. I totally counted those toward my Nano word count too, because, you know, it's words. So, and then on your year end, which is what I'm looking, you know, I'm wanting right now. Let me make that a little bit smaller so you can see. So you can see, and this is where I'm talking about how I'm lazy. I forget to track. So you can see the, you know, January and February, I was really good at tracking. And then the rest of the year until October, and even October, I wasn't very good at tracking. And then November I tracked, and I'm tracking in December. But only blog posts so far, because really that's all I've written so far. Now I've done some pre-writing. I just haven't put the numbers in yet. So as you can see, this year, even just like only tracking essentially 2 months, not even 2 months. Well, I'm sorry, 3 months, about 3.5 months altogether. I wrote 80,000 words, 80,000 words. And those are only the tracked words. So I go back to my little sheet and I put that in here in my words written. Now, let's see. I wonder if the goal is on here. No. Oh, and I also, you can see I actually did more, I did more revising. I did track my revision. So I did revising in March. So I revised 72 pages. And actually that's not even right, because I've revised, I didn't put in any of the December revision totals, which is probably about 30 pages. So I did actually about 100 pages of revising. this year. Should be more, but it's better than nothing. And it got me publishing 3 books, so that worked out. All right, so this sheet is really, really cool, and I will definitely put a post up in the Facebook group, in the tribe group, when when Jamie releases the 2019 one, because she actually has a bunch of cool different, a couple cool new things that she's incorporated into the spreadsheet. So it's a fantastic resource. So I filled that in my little worksheet, and pages revised and books published, and then whatever other metrics. Then I also want to track social media. There are a lot of numbers you can track in social media. You can track engagement, you can track number of impressions, number of times people saw your whatever. I don't care about that for my end of year. I want to know how many newsletter subscribers I have, how many I had at the beginning of the year, and how many I have now, so I know how many I gained, hopefully. Same with website views, Twitter followers, Facebook friends, Facebook page followers, Instagram followers, and Goodreads followers. Those are the ones important to me. And of course I left lines. So if you're a Pinterest person, or you're I don't even know what else is out there, any other things out there. So for me, here are my numbers. I'll put those up on let me get this right. All right. So you can see everything went up. Some of them went up substantially, like my Twitter followers went from 850 to almost 1,400. So that's like an 80% increase. My newsletter subscribers, because I finally started actually focusing on that, doubled. I got like 2.5 times, increase. So my website views are up. Everything's up. So that's what we want to see, right? We want to see increase. Even if your goal is to be traditionally published, you should be tracking these numbers now. Because if you want, when you go and you submit your manuscripts to agents or whoever, if you have a good social media platform, that is going to give you a leg up. Because if there's somebody who has a book that is just as good as yours and they have no social media, and you have your book and you have social media, they're going to pick you. If everything else is equal, they're going to pick you because you already have an audience. So that's important. So those are things I want to know. All right. So we're at about the 30-minute mark. I should have about 15 more minutes. And then if you have any questions, I think Shell, I think you're the only one here. So, if you have any questions. So, all right, the next thing is we're going to pull out the Ultimate Authorship Planner. I really should have moved this little table next to me so I don't have to keep putting my back to you. And again, I'll put this link in the notes in a minute. Okay, so it's this gigantic thing. And I actually took some pictures of them, which I'll put up in a minute. All right, so the first thing, it has this big old intro. The first question it asks, and this is very common in entrepreneur sort of reviews and things like that. So now we're going to start looking. We've looked at the past. We've thought about, what failed for us, what didn't work out the way we wanted to. We thought about the things that might have helped contribute to that. So we've got that in our head now, right? So we've got that in our head. So now what she has is your vision, right? So, and you see it's a workbook. There's all kinds of places to write. So it is, close your eyes and imagine jumping forward to 12 months from right now. What day is it? Where are you? Who are you with? And what are you wearing? And you obviously don't have to answer all those things, but it's about visualization, which is a big deal. Because if you don't have something to work toward, there's no way you're going to get it, right? It's going to be much more difficult to get it. So in mine, I'm saying it's a random day in December 2019. My husband and I are someplace warm, maybe Italy, and we're on an extended work vacation. So the next question is, most importantly, what are you feeling? I'm feeling secure and relaxed in my life and experiencing a sense of wonder about the world I'm experiencing. I'm thinking about the book I'm writing in the mornings and enjoying life for the rest of the day. So that's kind of my goal. I would love to do that. I love to travel, and things have been super tight the last couple of years because my house is freaking eating my bank account, my house and my cats, and me, because, medical stuff. But that is a thing I would love. I would love to be able to do that, for us to just pack up, go away for a month somewhere beautiful where I can work for part of the day and go and explore and enjoy life the rest of the day. That's my dream. That's what I want to do. So think about that. Actually think about where you want to be, physically where you want to be. Do you want to be in a new house? You know, do you want to be in your same house, but do you want to, you know, have new furniture? Do you want to be in the midst of a big family celebration where you can have everybody over? Maybe it's your book launch, right? Maybe you're having a private book launch party where everybody's celebrating the launch of your book. You know, maybe you're at a public book launch party. Maybe you've rented out a bar and, you know, everybody's coming to celebrate with you. Maybe that's your vision for December 2019. Or, you know, I mean, it's wide open, whatever it is you want. And think about it, like nothing is out of your reach. You know, being a billionaire or something might be out of your reach, but you know what I mean. You can envision something that could happen. And don't think that you can't be launching a book in December 2019. If that's what you want to do, you can do that, you know. Or maybe you want to do traditionally, which won't be launched in 2019, but maybe you want to publish traditionally. Maybe you've got an agent, maybe you just got a book deal, maybe a bunch of publishers actually bid in an auction for your book deal, and maybe you just got a check for $100,000. That's doable. It happens. Doesn't happen often, but that doesn't mean it can't happen. Just because something isn't common doesn't mean that it's impossible. So think about it, write it down, really put yourself there in your head. Think about what you're experiencing in that moment. What smells? Are you drinking something? What does it taste like? Are you drinking champagne? Is it bubbly? Is it getting up your nose? Champagne always gets up my nose. I kind of like it though. Really, really put yourself in that time and place. And I know it sounds a little bit, you know, new agey, but there's a reason that successful people do this, and very successful people do this. It's because it works. Okay, so the next question is, what are you most proud of accomplishing in the past 12 months? And what is the first thing you tell all your friends and family when they ask you that question? Mine is, I published 5 books and my husband is on his way to retirement. Because that's actually one of my goals, is to have him retired, or, you know, working if he wants to work, but have him retired by the time he's 60. That is he's like 54 now. That's my goal. Okay, so you go through and you do that. The next step is really specifically about your authorship and what you want to accomplish with your writing. I want to publish at least 5 books. I want the income to be enough to take the pressure off of us financially and allow us some freedom to travel. Now notice, that's not like a ridiculous thing. You know, we're obviously getting by right now, but you know, we've had a lot of pretty heavy financial hits the last 2 years, 3 years, 2.5 years. That's kind of put us on a tight budget right now. I would like to ease off that and, you know, rebuild our savings to a point. And then I want to travel, because that's the thing I want to do. I would like to have a dedicated readership who love my books and my world. I want my newsletter. I want to have to pay a lot of money to the newsletter company, you know, the place that does my emails, because I want a huge newsletter with all these people who think I'm awesome and I think they're awesome. And, you know, that's what I want. And I want to continue to be a guest at conventions. I'm a featured guest at JordanCon this year, so that's awesome, and I want to continue to do that. So then there's some other things but in the book, but I'm not going to go over everything. But then we get into the nitty gritty and we get into the nuts and bolts. And so we're going to do this page and the next 2 pages. So, well, 3 pages. So then it says how many, and this kind of goes back to this, did I really just close the whole thing out? I sure did. What a dummy. Let me open, where did it go? I guess I have to open the window. I closed down the PDF and I should have just minimized it. There it is. Okay. So this goes back to this column. No, not this column. Yes, it goes back to this column because here's the thing. I print this out. I print out this PDF to fill out for this year, but I print out a second PDF and I fill out the first column in the second PDF on both sheets, right? Because my year-end stats for now is next year's year begin. So then I put these pages in the front of my planner and they just sit there and they're going to live there all year. So this is what the next section of this book is how many manuscripts would you like to draft? I put 2 because I have one completed book and I have 3 books that are 70% or more complete. So I figure that kind of roughs out to about 2 full manuscripts. How many works would you like to publish? 5. How many copies of all books would you like to sell? And that's a number you just pull out your ass, right? That's like, oh, 5 million. Yeah, that's not going to happen. I like to start low. 1,000. I'm going to sell way more books than 1,000. But I like to create a goal that's reachable. How many new followers and email subscribers? So that goes back to here. So, what do I want? And maybe I'll note that I don't have a space for actually my goal for this. Maybe I'll add a column somewhere. Anyway, so, I put a number in for that. How many new customer reviews of your books? And these are just things you're just, it's just not necessarily pie in the sky, but these are dream numbers, right? How many new blogger reviews of your book are posted online? How many new guest blogs would you like to publish? New interviews for your website or on the web for your books? How many conferences or live events? How many writing contests or awards do you want to win? So those are just things, you need to know what your goals are in order to create a plan to get there. And that's what the next page is. So these are the ones I took pictures of. So let me pull that up. Let me find the right one. There we go. All right. So the first one is this page called Defining My Goals. And so what it tells you to do is put 3 goals in the bottom. And these are like really big umbrella goals for me. Let me close this so you can see my face and see my hands while I'm, moving my hands to talk. Okay, so I hate that the scroll doesn't work. All right, so it tells you, and I think this is actually a really good plan, to put your actual goal on the bottom and then work backwards. And that makes sense because here's the thing. If I want, like, for example, so one of my goals is to complete and publish the Soul Cavern trilogy. Now, the first book's already out. So, and the second book, as I mentioned, is already about 2/3 of the way drafted. But then I have a third book I have to write. So obviously, in order to complete publishing the Soul Cavern trilogy, I have to launch the third book. So that's what is here in the box right above it. And to launch the first book, well, it has to be proofed and it has to have a cover and it has to be revised. So there it is right here. But of course, in order to proof a manuscript, it has to actually be written. So complete Soul Cavern 3. And if it's a trilogy, well, then the second book needs to already be out. So in that same step is Soul Cavern 2's book launch. And then in order to have a book launch, I have to have a final finished book. So I'm going to need cover art. So there it is. And then in order to have that, I have to actually complete Soul Cavern 2, right? So like you can work backwards to figure out your steps. I was like, okay, yeah, that's pretty brilliant. I like that. And I do that with manuscripts. I was actually writing a response on Quora today, or yes, maybe it was yesterday. Someone who said, what's the best way to outline? And everybody's talking about different ways to outline because there is no best way. There's a best way for you. But one of the things that I sometimes do is when I'm trying to figure out a story, I will, I'll plot it from the beginning, but invariably I'll run into an obstacle. I'll be like, okay. And then I'll go to the end. I'll be like, okay, this is the end. What needs to happen in order for that to happen? And then you just work backwards. And I thought this was a really good thing. All right. So then my favorite part that I've done so far is next. All right. So this is mapping my goals. So yeah, I needed bigger boxes for this one. Anyway, All right. So basically labeled all the boxes with months. You could do this on a big calendar. You could do it on a Google Calendar. You could do it almost anywhere. But this worked for me for now. So the KS is my nickname for the short story that I don't have a title for yet. That's why I have a nickname. So my launches I put in this kind of funky little light blue color. Getting my covers, contracting my covers, and launch prep, because that's all marketing, is in red because I hate it. I mean, I love red, but red is always a sort of color. So yeah, that's kind of what that is. I put all of my writing, revision, that kind of thing. I mean, not writing, but like the editorial side of stuff. Revisions, getting beta readers, proofing, that kind of thing. I did those in green. And then my actual writing manuscripts I did in blue. I don't know if you've ever seen these Flexion pens, but they're erasable pens. As you can see, there are quite a number of little erase marks all over the place. So, all right. So you can kind of see what I did. And what I did is I was like, okay, I know I'm going to launch the short story in January. I know I'm going to do that. Okay. And the very last thing I want is the 5th book to launch. Okay. So which is the 5th book? So I figured out which is going to be the 5th book. And it's actually going to be the first book in my young adult post-apocalyptic series. So that's going to be launched in December of next year. I've got a pen name book. And those of you who know that, you'll be happy to see that that is currently scheduled for publication in September. But I have a question mark because all of this is new. It's all new to me. Like this kind of scheduling with writing is all new to me. I don't know if this is ambitious. I don't know if it's not ambitious enough. So maybe I can move that launch up. Maybe I could do it in July rather than in September, you know, and it's just going to depend on how quickly I get stuff done. And to that end, one thing I do want to share is that there's, I can't remember his name. It was right there on the tip of my tongue. What is it? I can't think of who said it. I'll have to look it up. But it's basically, it's kind of a law of business, is that a task will grow to fit the time allotted for it. So basically, if you have a task that you could do in 15 minutes, but you allot 30 minutes for it, it'll take 30 minutes. Even though you can do it in 15, it'll still take 30 minutes. So that's the thing I am needing to keep in mind when I'm working on this, is that, okay, I have this for here, but I don't really know how realistic any of my timeline is. So I need to be able to pivot. I need to be able to adapt. So, you know, I have here that I need to revise, do my personal revisions on Soul Cavern 2, and then get it out to beta readers in January. Those are the things I have to do. Maybe I get it out to beta readers on the 3rd week of January instead of the end of January. So then I've got another week in January. I mean, maybe I can do it faster. I don't know how long that's going to take me because I have not done this sort of thing before. So then I have an extra week in January. Well, then I can move up outlining. I can move up outlining the 3rd book. I can move that up to the 2nd week. So that'll move everything up. So by the time I get to September, I'm so optimistic. By the time I get to September, things, you know, I may find that I'm actually working faster, moving faster than I thought I would. So all of this, I have to remember, and I have to keep in mind that none of this is set in stone. And that's a problem I have. I tend to think that once something is written down, it's set in stone. That was something I had to really, really overcome in grad school, because I thought, I write a thing, it's on the page, it can't be changed now. Of course it can be changed. Anything can be changed. So this is what I worked out. And I think it's realistic. I also, you'll see that I also noted major events. So I have Dragon Con right here, and then Jordan Con right here in April. I also have Frolicon in April, but it's kind of, Jordan Con is the place for that, the place marker for that, because they're a weekend apart. So FroliCon's a weekend before JordanCon. So that just keeps it in my head. I also have another convention I'm going to in January that's out of state. It's a weekend thing, but it's not work related. I'm not doing anything for it. I'm just going as a participant, as an attendee. So that's fine. I work both DragonCon, JordanCon, FroliCon. I work those. So anyway, so yeah, so I know I'm flying through this stuff. Definitely put questions in if you have any. Just dump them in the chat room, and I will either address them while I'm doing this, or you know, at the end. But we're almost done. We've only got 2 more pages, and one of them is not filled out at all. So the next page is about evaluating my goals, and really I just wrote down, it's okay. So the question is, after reverse engineering your goals and creating a visual chronology of how, when you can complete tasks, blah, 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 is there anything you've found that you need to alter? Can you achieve some goals sooner in the year? Or do you have too many goals? Too few? Do you need to rethink your timelines? And it gives you like almost an entire page to explore your thoughts on that. And that's pretty much what I was just talking about. You know, I need to remember, I need to remain flexible. I don't know if that's, you know, if I have too many goals or too few goals. I don't know, because I'm not familiar enough with this particular path. If you told me I would have to, you know, edit 10 manuscripts this year, I could completely fill this out to where that would be doable, you know, but that's not the case. This is new to me. So I have to remember that I need to remain flexible. And then the next page, and I have to go back to, because I took this picture out of order, is refining my 12-month goals. So basically what this is this is supposed to be this page, and you take all these steps and you put them in here in order. So this is goal number 1, and target completion date. And so you go through and you date everything. That gives you a really good way to schedule yourself for this, you know, for anything you're working on. And the reason I didn't fill this out is because I'm actually going to use this a little differently. Because remember, I said at the beginning that, you know, I'm probably going to make worksheets, my own worksheets out of all these, because actually what I'm to make it more useful for myself. And what I'm actually going to do with this is I'm going to use it for manuscripts. And since I'm going to have at least 5 things to put in here, I'm going to need another sheet. I'm going to need another page. So I'm going to actually make a copy of this so I have a second page that I can use. And so I'll be able to see exactly what dates. I can look at this and my Google Calendar, because I also have a production. I should probably show you that. I also have a production calendar in Google Calendar that I'm going to currently revise. So let's turn off all these other things. Hello, open me my thing. Okay. So I have these deadlines, and these were, I put these in pretty much by the seat of my pants, like I did that other thing. And I was like, oh, I feel like I could maybe do that by then. So yeah, so I have these, they're color coded, obviously. So I love Google, and we'll get more into Google, using Google for all of this stuff a little bit later in a different video. All right, that's it. That's all I got for this episode. This episode of As We Plan 2019. The next pages in the workbook are my manuscripts, which is putting in all the information about what I'm going to work on writing. So, and what I'll do is I'll be working on this before the next video so that I'll have some stuff to show you. And yeah, and like I said, I'm not just going to show you like this book, because then that's just kind of dumb that I'm just using this book, but I'm also going to show you the tools that I use in order to get everything working smoothly. So, okay, are there any questions? Please put them in the thing. I think there are 3 of us in here right now. Well, 4 counting me. I'm actually going to upload this video to YouTube, I think. I don't know. I feel like that might seem a little narcissistic, but you know. But at least then it'll be there for whenever anybody wants to read it. I mean, watch it. Okay, Shell, you got any questions? Who else is in here? Anybody? I see that there are the little thing on top says 3, but that doesn't mean there's actually anybody here. Oh. How many beta readers do you usually use? I will use as many as will actually do the work. No, that's not true, because I tend to limit it to 5. I will have anywhere from 1 to 5, because unless there are specific, like there's a specific person, because there's something specific about this manuscript that I need someone to look at, like, you know, maybe there's weapons in there and I need somebody who knows these kind of weapons to have a look at it, then I might have more than 5. But I tend to really not have more than 5, because that's like at that point it gets that to me, that's just 5 is just enough to see if there's a trend, an issue with a specific thing that multiple people have. But then that's not a bajillion comments and a bajillion things for me to have to go through and work out. Does that make sense? But sometimes, like currently on the short story, I think I have 4 betas reading it. So I have a Facebook group that is my beta readers. Anybody who's interested in ever beta reading for me is welcome to drop a line and let me know, and I'll invite you into the group. And then when I have a story ready, I say, okay, I have this story ready. If there's a prerequisite, like this short story is not exactly a standalone, it goes with Javaja, the first book. So you have to have read Javaja in order for this to get the most out of this short story. So like that was a requirement. So I'll post that there's a requirement, and I'll post what that is. And then anybody who wants it comments by whatever time I say. I give them usually a few days, 3 days, 4 days, and have them comment. And then I close the comments for the group, for that thread. And then those people, I open a messenger window and I give them a link to the story. So that way, like, I think there are 10 people in the group right now. And I think on this one, I think I have 5, or I might have 6. I might have 6. I would have to look. I have 5 or 6. But the thing is, like, I don't expect I'll necessarily get comments from all of them, because you don't, life happens. Like my sister, two of my sisters are in the beta reader group, and one of them, she has like a really bad case of the flu right now. And I just gave it to him last week. I gave him a week turnaround. And that's the other thing I do. I give a deadline as to when I want it back. So hopefully that answers your question. And a note about beta readers: make sure that your beta readers are people who read in the genre you're writing. Because every genre has different reader expectations. And so if someone is an action adventure reader, they're not going to know what the genre conventions are for romance, for example, or horror, for example. And so things that are going to bug them because it's not like the books that they read, they're going to give you feedback on that. And that's not going to be useful for you, because you are adhering to the reader expectations of your genre. And so in my experience, having beta readers who do not read in your genre, it doesn't have to be their favorite genre, but they have to read enough of it to be familiar with it, to like it. But you end up getting, I won't say bad feedback, but feedback that is not nearly as useful. So that's a note on beta readers. So my husband reads all my stuff, and he likes the stuff I write enough to where, yeah, I'll listen to him, but he'll give me a comment and I'll be like, yeah, no, that's not an issue. You think it's an issue, but it's not an issue, because that's not an issue for my readers. So yeah. So if you're giving it to a spouse, make sure that your spouse reads your genre. And if your spouse doesn't read your genre, make sure you know what to ignore. So, okay. I hope that answers your question about beta readers. Yay. Awesome. Okay. It doesn't seem like there's anybody else, and that's totally cool. So, all right. So I will post those links and stuff in the notes for this, in the little top thing, the little whatchamajigger, so that you guys can get those resources. And what else? And then I'll figure out when I'm going to do this next video. I'm thinking it will probably be Thursday or Friday for the next one. Okay? All right. Ciao. Have a good night. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.